Well, hello everyone, and it is back with Fair Life on Monday evening on Life's a Fair. And it has been, it's been one of those weird weeks for me where I just do a lot of little things. Just going down that list of doing this little thing and that little thing and that little thing. And it's tough sometimes when you're doing that because each time you finish something, you've got a long list of other little things, and you start thinking, well, I need to. I don't feel like I've done that much. But once you start doing all those checks off your list, at the end you do start to feel like you accomplished a lot. But it's a little frustrating sometimes. I know you know what I mean, so I'll just leave it at that. But no, it's been an interesting week as always. Um, and yeah, hey, great to see some of y'all. Yeah, there's Katsurita, and hey, Janine, and Jan, and Kurt. Hey, great to see you. And Alicia's on too. Um, so, yes. And yeah, and also, yeah, Alicia just said it. Don't forget to like and share tonight's show. I would appreciate it. And all of us at Life's Affair would too. So, yes. Whew. I hope y'all have had a good week with not too much bad weather or anything. I know if you're in the West, it's still in that drought time, but here uh, in the Austin area, it's not too bad. Warm, but we're used to that here during the summer, so no problem. Uh, and true, Alicia says that she's on from work. She's checking in from there, so that's kind of different. She's, yeah, coming in. Where are all y'all coming from? I guess most of you are just relaxing at home watching this. Um, but ooh, and Janine's going through week 2 of 2 5-week graduate level math courses totaling 6 credits. That's always okay. I applaud you, Janine, because that is you're accomplishing a lot, and that I know it may not feel like it right now, but at the end, oh, you're going to feel great. Uh, it's a lot of work in the summer getting classes done, but that is great. Um, oh wow, and Jan had a had a crazy week too. Well, I'm glad. Hopefully, you're doing better. So, and I'm glad you're at home relaxing. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I not really much in the way of holidays to speak of going on right now. I mean, of course, this coming up Sunday is going to be July the 4th. So that's sort of a big deal in the US, of course. But before that, during the week, like today, not really much going on. I mean, there's, what is it? I think Wednesday or Thursday is International Asteroid Day, which I'm kind of like, that's, or astronaut or asteroid watching day or something. That's a little weird because International Asteroid Day, I think it'd be like more Universal Asteroid Day because asteroids aren't on the planet. They can't be by definition. So that's kind of strange. But hey, whatever works for you. Other than that, not much going on. So I'm sure all of you are planning on what events you're going to be doing this Sunday with July the 4th. Some of you may be going out and doing the barbecue and enjoying being able to spend time with others finally on a holiday as opposed to the previous year. But, and some of you might just be thinking, I'm just going to veg and relax and do as little as possible because to some people, that's a great vacation. I know I like it sometimes. Um, yes, and that is true. Alicia just said that the 4th of July is just when the Declaration of Independence was ratified. And she's right. A lot of the signatures from the different states and came much later. So kind of strange. Anyway, I was I do want to share one article that I came up with, ran across a few weeks ago that just kind of stuck with me, and it's it was kind of interesting. Oh, and Janine's saying it's too dry here. Fireworks got canceled. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of places in the U.S., especially in the Southwest and West. I'm sure that's going to be pretty nuts. So, yeah, I feel bad for those people, but hopefully nobody's going to try to do fireworks anyway on their own because that's very dangerous. Uh, but yeah, this article, it was talking about the pain of medieval pointy shoes. And I thought about it and realized, yeah, I've seen pictures of those really insanely pointy shoes from, uh, from medieval times, from the 13, 14, 1500s kind of time. And I was just kind of like, you never really see those at Faire. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll see a little bit of a point, but not much of one, not like the old pictures usually. And I was kind of wondering why. So, yeah, it just kind of occurred to me. And so I went back and looked at the article, and it was kind of interesting because, well, I guess it all stemmed from some archaeologists that went in and looked at some different grave sites and burial sites from the 11th to the 15th century, and was looking at different skeletons and bodies and all of that from that time and comparing them, and they came to an interesting conclusion that there was a minor deformity in some of their feet that in I guess in the 11th to 13th century about 6% of the people had, but when you got to the 14th to the 15th century, about 27% of the people had. And there was a sliding scale of, I guess you'd call it bunion prevalence, linked to how wealthy you are. The wealthier the person seemed to be, the more likely they were to have that problem. And they attributed it mostly to what they call, I believe it's pronounced Poulain shoe. Poulain, Poulaine. I don't know how many of you are familiar with those, but yeah, they're those real. What I think I do have a picture. I think somewhere on here. Let me see. I think I do. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you can kind of see it right over here with the guy there in the old illuminate manuscript that here. Yeah, you can see those real pointy shoes, Poulain shoes. That's what I'm referring to. And you never really see those at Faire. I mean, do you? At least I never really have. I've seen small examples, but not really like that. Let's get a little closer zoom in on there. There you go. And you can kind of see that that's really exaggerately pointy. And I can't imagine that being comfortable or easy to wear. I don't know. It was really strange. I do have one. Let's see. Yeah, here's an example from the Met, the Metropolitan Museum. They have an actual shoe from that time. Here we go. And you can kind of see what it actually looked like. Apparently they put moss in there over their toes to compact it in there to make it easier to wear, which I guess in the short term would help, but long term, people, it really started messing up their feet. And the studies were quite interesting, where people would have injuries later in life. I mean, sometimes broken bones at other parts of their body simply because their feet weren't balanced very well and were more fragile, and they didn't have the balance that they would have otherwise because of this. I mean, it really played a huge part in things, apparently. I mean, also the clergy seem to have it a lot more than most people. And I looked it up. They put rules for the clergy back in I think the 1200s, saying you could not wear pointy shoes. You could not wear Poulain shoes. And it was just kind of like, I mean, how big of a problem was it? And apparently not many priests or monks or whatever listened, because a lot of them still had that. So that was kind of interesting. And, you think back to the works of Chaucer and how he represented the clergy, and it kind of makes sense that they would dress all in fine clothing and try to look very stylish. So kind of makes sense right there, doesn't it? So yeah, I mean, it got so bad that, let me see if I want to get this right. In 1463, King Edward IV passed a law limiting the toe point length to less than 2 inches within London. I mean, that's like a shower cap warning. I mean, how bad did it have to be where you had to limit it just in London to no more than 2 inches? I mean, people were going 6, 8, 12 inches, I bet, points just to try to show off. I mean, it was like a early medieval codpiece in a way, just to try to show your stature or status. It's really weird, really weird. But yeah, as far as the etymology, feel free to look it up. I didn't bother with that. Poulaine. I believe it's pronounced Poulain, but it is an old word, so definitely, uh, it's definitely strange. It's hard for me to fathom how crazy all of that was. So, yeah, and it also got me thinking. What would be what would that mean for people at Faire? And I assume that people at Faire, it's just not a practical shoe. So the people who make Faire shoes wouldn't touch it. I mean, they might do a small little, curvy up point. That's the technical term, of course, curvy up point. But yeah, I've seen some of those on jester outfits and that kind of thing with a bell on the curved top. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Uh, Very interesting. Anyway, I don't know if y'all were interested in that. It's just something that popped in my head, and I I found it kind of cool because yeah, history is fascinating to me. It always has been. I'm sure none of you can relate at all. Of course, right? And Kurt had to throw in the, you know what they say about the size of a man's foot. Of course. Yes, and uh, that, of course, yes. So, really, when we're talking about Poulain, we're talking about the medieval version of the sports car. That's right. That is right. They're overcompensating. Wow. But no, I just found it interesting because I shoes when you work at Faire especially, and I'm sure when you go there and dress up a lot too, you think about what you should wear and what are the options. And this was a prevalent shoe for a good while. The 14th and the late 1300s on, well, actually, I guess even the early 1300s on into the late 1400s, and that was pretty huge. And then they came up with a couple of other quick different shoes at the end of the 1400s, and then boom, went to regular type shoes that we're used to. Well, not quite the same, but no points. So that was good. Wow. But yeah. It is. It definitely, even though it might be traditional, I don't think it's a good shoe to invest in or try to wear because it'll mess up your foot. I mean, I don't know. There might be a way to make it work. Janine's talking about a false point over a regular shaped shoe. Maybe, but I don't know. I just look at it and think some things are more trouble than they're worth. You know. So that's my little historical tidbit for the day, or for the week, I guess, rather. But yeah, okay. So let's go over to the weather, I guess, because we do, and the fair is coming up, because we have some interesting stuff. We're kind of in that lull in the middle of the summer where there aren't many fairs, and I found that interesting because there are a few though. Colorado is starting this weekend, which is great. That's always a huge fun fair during the summer. It's one of the staples of the summer when you think of Ren fairs. So that's nice, but there are a few others, and they're kind of spread out here. Let's go to a higher, bigger shot so you can kind of see it better. But yeah. I mean, a few different options here. Now, you've got a few that are still going on, like the Kentucky Highland Renaissance Festival in Nimitz, Kentucky, and also the East Idaho Renaissance Fair in Rexburg, Idaho is still going on too. So that's good. And now we've added Colorado Renaissance Festival in Larkspur, Colorado. But you see over there up in Connecticut, only this Saturday though, in Ansonia, Connecticut, the Midsummer Fantasy Renaissance Fair. Some small fairs do that. They only go on Saturday. Sundays are usually not as good as far as attendance. And when you're first starting out or when you're small, it doesn't usually make as much sense. I mean, with sometimes the cost of renting the land or the park or wherever you're doing it, it just isn't worth it. And depending on the attendance, sometimes just doing one day makes a lot of sense, especially for the first few years sometimes. You don't always see it, but because usually if people are doing Ren fairs, they start out being ambitious. You kind of have to. But It works. It's sometimes a prudent way to go. Um, oh, right, and Alicia does have make a really good point that some states have weird blue laws, but not all fairs serve alcohol and that kind of thing too. It's something to keep in mind. Some festivals are more like a state fair kind of thing. So it can be kind of crazy, but yeah, definitely interesting. Oh, and Jan saying have the tickets for Bristol, and that's nice. Excellent. Bristol's another big stable fair of the summer, so something to check out. So yeah, anyway, you have a nice, good range of fairs up all across the country. That's really nice, and you'll notice in Idaho and Rexburg, that's just on the cusp of the drought section in the western United States. So it's kind of just on the edge. So hopefully they're not experiencing it too bad. At the very least, it's not as bad as other places, but hopefully they might be out of it. It's tough to say, but it's right on the border. So hopefully not too bad. Um, Now, as far as rain and weather, there's supposed to be some rain this weekend, maybe in the southeast, and maybe even a little bit in Colorado, believe it or not. Kind of interesting. Of course, this is a long range forecast, and we know those are rarely accurate. But if you are going to Colorado, do check out the weather beforehand because there might be some rain. Something to remember. Always good to remember those things. Yay! So some really good fairs coming up, and always a fun time. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I saw too. There's a good chance for rain in Colorado, especially in central Colorado, which I found interesting. Um, but once again, that's a long range forecast, so we know how that goes. We know how that goes. Ah. Okay. Well, the whole thing about the shoes earlier kind of kept bouncing around in my head before the show today. So, for some reason, when I was thinking about 7 reasons, guess where my brain went? So, I came up with the 7 most uncomfortable things you wear to look good at fair. Now, I know some of you are already thinking, oh, yeah, I already thought of a few, right? Because if you've been doing fair long enough, you've worn some uncomfortable things that you wish you hadn't, and you've seen other people do it too. It happens. Oh, yes. There's so many things that, uh, especially when you first start doing fair, you learn pretty quick which things are comfortable and which aren't. Usually the hard way after a long weekend, but you learn, and that's how we all do it. That's how you do everything in life. So no, no judgment. Ah. Andrew says uncomfortable is in my past. Exactly. You learn, and but you see other people do it still, and sometimes they keep doing it, which boggles my mind. They keep doing it in spite of it all. So okay, let's see. The the 7th reason. Let's go number 7. Or the 7th most uncomfortable thing you wear to look good at fair. Now, of course, after my earlier talk about shoes, I had to kind of go with that, right? So I went with heels or bad shoes. Um, yeah, I mean, and when I was doing the podcast last year with the Life's a Fair podcast, and I'd interview all the different performers and people on there, I started asking them all this same question: is if you could give advice to anybody going to fair for the first time, what advice would you give? Most common response: wear comfortable shoes. And I think that says a lot. It really, really says a lot. And the other thing, I've seen people wear high heels at fair. I'm going in mud and unstable ground and all, and I'm just kind of like, wow. Um, and some of them manage to do a good job wearing it, surprisingly. And some people do a horrible job managing it, unsurprisingly. So, yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. Um, and Janine's talking about, uh, oh, ooh, somebody who wore some really bad shoes. Yeah, I mean, If the earlier talk about shoes, Poulain shoes, says anything to you, it's the importance of wearing comfortable shoes. Spend that extra $20 or $40 on your shoes. It's worth it long term. It is. It really is. Ah, yeah. And that's just for regular shoes. For Faire shoes, that's even more crazy. But there are options for inexpensive, good Faire shoes and comfortable ones, definitely. Ah. Oh my gosh. Jane's talking about somebody wore cowboy boots and the sole melted. Wow. Yeah, that's just cheap cowboy boots. You do that, that's not right. That's not right. Yeah, Drew just said that cheaply made boot. Yeah, I'm sorry, but boots should not do that. That's a dress boot. That's the um, yeah. Uh, that's the Back to the Future 2 and 3 um, cowboy outfit that Marty wore type of quality. I'm sorry, it's costume, just costume. Okay, number 6, the sixth most uncomfortable thing you wear to look good at Faire. Now, this one was, as a guy, I thought all of these were uncomfortable when I first saw them at Faire. We're talking about, well, let's just say cheap, improperly made corsets or bodices. But I came to learn from friends that no, actually, they're very comfortable if you get a one that's made well and is fits right with you. And that was news to me. I mean, as a guy, I've just never worn that, which I'm okay with. But uh, it's interesting. So something to be aware of. And you see people all the time, every weekend at Faire, wear really cheap, costumey corsets or bodices, and you can imagine they're not very happy right now. Um, yes, 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 and Katsurita's agreeing with the how well fitted it is. That's very true. Um, yes, I've heard that from many friends. Yeah, Alicia definitely did mention that when we talked earlier. A zipper. Yeah, Alicia mentions that. Yeah, that's yes. Maybe good for the bedroom, not good for Faire. Yeah. Okay. Number 5. Number 5. Itchy clothes. Now, we've all been there, right? We've all worn that synthetic out material that just itches like crazy. Some of us, may have sensitive skin where we learned it the hard way. And after a long day at Faire, you have to be careful with that. You start looking at layers, putting a comfortable layer underneath with a layer that looks good, but maybe is not so comfortable over, so it doesn't hit directly touch your skin, that kind of thing. I mean, you just learn those tricks, and yeah, that's important. And people forget. Especially when they're starting out, they don't think about the materials too much. They just want to wear what looks good and is not too expensive. And cheap cloth is cheap cloth for a reason. That's it. Okay, number 4. Here we go. Glitter. Now, I cannot emphasize this enough. Glitter is horrifically bad. I despise glitter. I'm not going to lie. I know that sometimes, like for a fae, doing a little glitter on the face it helps and it makes a difference. But you got to be careful because it's easy to get in your eye. It can be dangerous, and most glitter is not good for the environment. So, not a good thing. I remember being at Faire once where a couple of patrons had those glitter wands near me, and one just bombed the other person with it, and it got all over me too because I happened to be standing nearby. I didn't even see it coming, and it just got all over me, all over my guitar, everything. They felt horrible and were very apologetic, and they were patrons, so I let it go. Inside, I wanted to strangle them. Um, yeah, it got in my car. It got all over the place. And after several years, I finally got it out of my car by getting a new car. Right. So, not um, not a fan of glitter because yeah, even the biodegradable stuff that Alicia's mentioning, um, that's great, but it's still, if you're doing a little bit for your outfit, okay, I can get behind that in moderation, fine. But throwing it out there as something to throw around people, it is insidious, and I am not a fan. I know there are some shops that do that kind of thing, but I'm really, really, really not a fan because it's just messy and very hard to clean. And when you put a lot of work into your outfits, I mean, it's not much different than somebody spilling a beer on you. And it's just not cool. And it happens regularly. So, anyway, not that I'm biased. I know you can't tell. Oh my gosh. Okay. Uh, you're right. Kurt, you are totally right. One person going in with glitter means at least 50 coming out. Totally, totally true. Uh, yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, the glitter wands, can't stand those. It's literally like somebody going at a fair and saying, hey, I'm going to sell confetti eggs, and do it that way. And they have to be used. So it's just a mess and a nightmare. It's just not fun. Okay, number three. Number three, leather in hot weather. Let's be honest, it's not very comfortable. I wear a leather doublet, and, well, at least sometimes, and I don't wear the sleeves. I took those off. I try to make it as breathable as possible, but it is the warmest part of what I wear, always. I've tried to compensate by making everything else, every other part of me, very breathable, but it's still, it is tough. But it does look good, and it works really, really well. Yeah, leather hats. I have one, and I do wear it sometimes when it's a leather beret, which looks great if I'm wearing a kilt. And it actually, it's green, and it has a great look to it. And I'll wear that if it's not hot and I'm wearing a kilt. But otherwise, probably not. Probably not. I totally agree with you on the leather hats, Drew. That doesn't make much sense. Um, yeah, yeah. And luckily, usually when I wear a kilt, it's I don't wear kilts very much, and when I do, at least these days, and when I do, it's usually indoors or it's pretty cool, so I can get away with it. Um, and Kurt, I totally agree. Yeah, I accents and that kind of thing are great. I still am okay with a leather doublet as long as it's minimalist. But it's still, you better really like the look of it, and that's it. And that's why I really like the look of it. But that's the way that I suffer a little bit. But I've compensated in other ways. It doesn't really bother me. I don't think it's too bad for me anyway. Okay, number two. Number two, unlined chainmail. Now let's just be honest on this. Ouch. Chafing. Ouch. It is, yeah. And you always see people doing it. I mean, maybe not as much as you used to, but yeah, you see it a lot, and it is just nuts. I can't imagine um, why that is a good idea. Yeah, pinching. Totally right, Alicia. Right? Um, I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily naked, but you can. But that is one example. Um, Sometimes it's not completely naked, but the chainmail still touches a lot of skin, and over a day, that is not comfortable. That is not comfortable. I've known people who did it, and ouch, 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 and ouch. No, definitely not. And number one, the number one most uncomfortable thing you wear to look good at fair: weapons of unusual size. Come on, we all know what we're talking about, right? And no, I know you're tempted, Kurt, but don't go with what a Scotsman wears underneath his kilt. I know it's the obvious route. It's where you want to go with it, but that's not what I mean here. Um, it's just that whole. It's just the whole when you see um, when you see people with really huge barbarian swords or exaggerated weapons that seem more like a cosplay sort of costume than anything else. And, sometimes it's for humor and it's a good joke. Um, and you get the joke, and then you have to carry it around all day. Ouch. I mean, that's dedication for that one joke. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, and I get having a rapier on your side if you're, wearing a musketeer outfit or something. I get it. I get it. But uh, yeah, I mean, or maybe just a small little dagger on the side, just to kind of accent some sort of a thief costume or something. I get that too. But when you get to those really huge weapons, you just have to carry them around all day, and it just doesn't make sense. Um, Honestly, it makes more sense to me to just not even have the sword, and just have the hilt that's in a scabbard that weighs hardly anything or something. I mean, make it totally um, pretend. I mean, don't make it real. Uh, so yeah, yeah. And I still see people do it all the time, and I get it, but it's people keep forgetting. They go, and it's a great morning, and then the second hour starts, and it's only 11 a.m. and it's not fun. Some people probably take it out to their car at some point and leave it there for the rest of the day, but the fact that you have to, just not comfortable. Always weird. So yeah, did y'all have anything else that you fond of as far as uncomfortable things that you've worn or seen people wear? Anything at all? Because that's this is what I came up with: the seven most uncomfortable things you wear to look good at Faire. Or did we cover it all? I know y'all said some of them in there. So yeah. Oh, velvet. Yeah, that kind of goes along with the whole materials. Uh, yeah, kind of the hot, almost with leather and itchy clothes. That kind of works both ways to me. Velvet always seemed a bit itchy, at least to me, and it is hot. But I agree with that. And furry wings can be nuts. I totally agree with that. I mean, just finding a place to sit down sometimes can be rough with fairy wings. Depends on the type of wings, but yeah, yeah. Demon wings, yeah, that can be rough too. Um, yeah, I've seen some of the wings get so ornate with like there's the that girl who did the feather wings that were just huge, made out of um, peacock feathers, and it looked great, but so unwieldy. I mean, you had to, just walking was a challenge. Not that she got to walk very far because people kept taking pictures, but yeah, still. Mm. Yes, yes. Oh, the huge pants, yeah, that kind of thing. That is always true. And yeah, big wings will part a crowd. One of the reasons I love playing music at Faire is because it was always a get out of my way um, card for free. I just start playing music. I just break out the recorder and start jamming, and, and I'd play, and people would look behind them and kind of go, oh, something is there a parade? Is something happening? And they'd all part. And then I could just move forward. It was great. So when you saw me like at TRF back in the old days, when I was performing there in the Texas Renaissance Festival, and you'd see me walking along playing my recorder, um, I liked playing music, so that was part of it. But that was the other reason, so people would move. It was a great way to get through a crowd. Definitely. Yeah, wing awareness. Very, very important. I think so. I definitely think so. Yeah, very, very important. Well, okay. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed it, and always a pleasure to hang out with you uh, on our Monday adventures. Yeah, that's kind of what it is, right? It's kind of a Monday adventure in a way. It's yeah, yeah. It does kind of feel that way to me, at least. I hope it does to you too. So thank you. Have a great evening, a great night, and not only have a life that's fair, but have a fair life. And I'll see you soon. and don't wear Poulain shoes. Just remember, very important.